Okay, I think we're live.
Recording.
Welcome to the first recorded conversation.
So what did you want to talk about? We were just looking at the Z thing. I'm guessing that's why.
I only had a brief look at it. Were they really just doing it to create like a super fast refreshing GUI? That makes no sense. You don't need a high refresh rate for a GUI and 3D spinning animations for text. And drop shadows.
Yeah, so it's so over the top. So yeah, it's totally over-engineered. But I think it's funny. It's like from one of the former creators of Atom, which predates VS Code, which was like a god slow text editor.
Wasn't Atom sort of competing with Electron in a way?
It was using Electron, but it was like the first take at it, and it was god slow. It was just so slow, and just like I remember reading some blog post of like, just like I mean, I'm sure it's hard to create, but we're doing like some pretty naive algorithms, and so it wasn't just like web technologies. They're just doing, it's just pretty badly made. And then VS Code comes along and then gets like, it's like Electron, but with really good engineering on top.
Yeah, I mean, they invested so heavily in VS Code that it just got better really fast.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's ridiculous because I've got this. I'm a bit tied to the Mac, and so there's a little shop called Panic that make apps. They make like an FTP app, and so they have decided to make a text editor called Nova, and sometimes it's just not as fast as VS Code, and it's sort of sad to see because theoretically they should be able to do. They're not constrained by Electron, but it's often a bit glitchy or just a bit slow.
Yeah, but no, VS Code had so much investment, but I just don't understand why are we burning millions of dollars on a new editor?
Because developers are the new market.
That's right. Might as well make a new developer. Make a new developer editor and developer tools. Make new databases for the sake of it. Let's make new frameworks. While we're at it, let's make new frameworks for for AI and for more web development frameworks and more frameworks for everything.
Yeah, and I'm convinced like there's like the big thing about no code, but I'm convinced there's like a huge market for code where you treat developers like the kings and queens and you give them really nice tooling and you cache at them. Yeah,
this was literally one of the business ideas, right? What's the growing market now? Developers. So it makes stuff to sell to developers.
Yeah, I think there was. I can have a look again now. There was like the React developer tools. If you look at it, which is a Chrome extension. If you look at how many users there are of this extension, 4 million plus users. So 4 million. It's not just people who are using React. It's people who developing using React and then decide to install their like developer tools. It's 4 million people have decided to do that. Like, it's huge. So if I was to create a product aimed at just React developers, 4 million people, like that's massive. Yeah. So
interesting. What else is going on in the metaverse? Let's see. Let's look at our little set of posts. See what we've been posting.
Well, I've been looking at WebAssembly. I have been mulling over like how to pitch WebAssembly. There's a bit of hype around WebAssembly. I think I've got a slightly different take on it.
What do you think the hype is? What are people excited about, and what context?
Well, I think one aspect is JavaScript is everywhere. We're just talking about Electron. You can use the same tools, often React, to create desktop applications. And so, hey, I know React, and then suddenly I can use those skills to create a desktop app.
Like even though it might be slow, but who cares? Because whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care about performance anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I can create a Slack, or I can create. I think a Discord is Electron. or I think Figma might be Electron.
Yeah, I don't care if it spins up 25 processes that all do the same thing and it slows down slower than Windows 95, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
move
there was
on.
a good post on that. Yeah, there was a thing that went a bit viral of someone running Windows. It's like the old version of Windows on 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3.1 on 2000. It was a bit unfair, but then they showed Windows 2000 on this from hardware in that era, and it was like really fast. So yeah, things are getting a bit bloated and slow, and that's what us software developers do, is we take advantage of hardware. And
Of course, that's why we need 120 frames per second to render text.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we go from one extreme to the other.
Because of course, people are going to be typing 120 characters per second, of course, right?
Yeah. So I think the picture, one of the pictures with WebAssembly is, hey, you don't have to write JavaScript. People like JavaScript a lot more with things like TypeScript, and obviously there's a lot of, speaking of investment and tooling, there's a lot of investment in the JavaScript space. But hey, it would be nice if I could use Rust to write my webish application. Oh, hey, it'd be nice if I could use Go or C, C++, or some other language that theoretically should be faster than like JavaScript is amazingly fast because it's had so much investment in optimizing it. Like, it's bonkers what they've been able to squeeze out of it. But it's not really set up to be fast. It's just had millions and millions of dollars poured in to make it fast.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing's going to happen to Python, I think, next. Whether it's Mojo or something else, the same thing will happen in Python land. Python will get super fast. And for all its warts, it will become the sort of de facto language for that set of problems. If you're building web stuff, you're doing it in JavaScript, TypeScript. If you're doing any AI, anything, you're doing it in Python.
Yeah, I think, and then, like, I'm not going to say that JavaScript or Python aren't real programming languages, but I think there is, like, I don't agree with that, but I think there is an aspect where the people that are optimizing this sort of just see it as the same as like optimizing any interface. They just go, here's a contract, you write this like text, this code, and then on our back end, like, we're just going to do like whatever crazy tricks to optimize the hell out of that. So I think there is a bit of a blend where people see like code as like somehow like I'm throwing stuff directly at the process, like the CPU, but code is just like text, and you can optimize text in like optimizing anything. So
you made an interesting point before I want to dig into. You said something about engine. It's not about no code, it's about something code, like the
code. Yes, yeah. Code, or
what's your idea there?
Well, so like there's some stuff I've read of like why plain text won. Like, obviously, you know, you've got protocols like HTTP, which have changed now, but the first version was just a plain text protocol. HTML is just plain text. Markdown is just plain text. Like plain text, I'll try and find a link, but there's good. This is sort of old now, but good talk of how plain text just won. And so code is sort of the most flexible medium for, like, I'm not saying it has to be that way, but a lot of these no-code things, when I try to use them, it's just so freaking hard. It's like not expressive. Like, just when you're writing lines of text, you can like quickly rearrange like line 1 and line 2. You can copy and paste.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the idea you're touching on is one that others have expressed, which is, I think everyone will become a developer to some level. Everyone's going to do some coding.
I don't agree with that. I got strong opinions on that. Yeah.
The way that, you know, many people, you know, they might not consider themselves coders, but they're still using Excel and they're writing macros in Excel, for example, right? They might not consider it, but you know what? They're writing a bunch of code. And in that way, do you think more and more people who are not traditional developers or full-time developers will be writing code?
I don't know. Like, I think but some people, it seems like like a lot of scientists have to write R or Python or like get deep into crunching numbers in that way. Maybe if you're in business, that makes sense for you as well. But I think there's like a myth, some sort of mythical aura around coding, which is I don't think it should be put on the pedestal as highly. Like that's like where like you got JavaScript or Python and one of these like accessible languages, and like I'm saying, like it is programming. But I think it's like more of a spectrum. It's just like blurred. Like who cares in a way? Who cares if it's code or not? Like, you're just throwing data at a computer, and then the computer crunches it. And who sort of cares if it looks like code or if it's sort of flavored less like code, or
if it's just a prompt, right?
Yeah, if it's just a prompt. Or but I've got some strong opinions on people being taught code at schools. Do you think
they should not be, or they should be?
I don't think it should be prioritized. I think if people want to learn that stuff, I think it's cool. But I think kind of think that there's other skills that could be taught to do with business that could be taught, even just like tax stuff.
I can't have that. Then people will know how badly they're getting screwed. You can't.
Yeah, I think people should know that and teach them basic economics, and it would improve political discourse. And
all of a sudden, we can't post this video anywhere now. That's crazy talk.
So, I think those things should be taught at school before. I don't think coding's like this fundamental building block.
My kids are very young now in primary school, and they have during school holidays code camp. Where they
I think it's cool it's fun to learn. Like I'd learn it.
There's no finance camp, there's no money camp, there's no here's how our government works camp.
Yeah.
Here's how our financial system works camp. None of that exists. It's just code camp.
Yeah, I think it's partly popular because it's highly paid at the moment, and people see it as a good career, and people see it's fun to learn. But I'm not sure if it's just like, I don't know. Maybe if everyone learns how to code, it'd be kind of cool. But I don't know.
I think it's clever marketing by a couple of businesses, in particular, Lego and Minecraft. I think businesses did really, really clever marketing to get kids to code while they're building a Lego robot, or to code while they're moving the Minecraft character around to get to do stuff. Very clever, and for a set of kids, I think that will introduce them to coding. It's interesting. Because it touches on those two interests they already have. But
it's fun. Yeah, it's fun to write a little thing like that turtle thing or whatever, and like see something move on the screen, or even Minecraft is like that, or it is fun. So but I don't see it as like so fundamental. I don't know. Coding's hard, but I don't think I think like coding, a lot of coding to me is like writing, so you should learn how to write as well. Like I don't think it deserves this aura.
I think it's changed so much. It's difficult to even know where to go with it. It really is changing so much every year. Think about what they were teaching 20 years ago. Like most developers now don't know any of that stuff. They just don't know. They need to know.
And there's so all these other tangents we could go down, just like memory allocation, and I'm not going to say I'm an expert at that, but just like in most languages you use, you sort of you don't even think about that. But when you create an object, it has to be allocated somewhere, and that has a cost, and you create more objects. And and then you've got garbage collection. Something ideally comes and cleans them up.
We had a Stack Overflow exception the other day, and it was such a rare exception because we haven't had it. Neither of us has seen it for so long that we almost got up and celebrated. And
nice.
Wow, look at this! It's so exciting. We actually managed to do it.
You're actually like bumping against the limits of what your computer can do. Yeah.
It was a stupid bug, but it's just so rare. I mean, the abstraction layers we've added have added lots and lots of bloat. That's good, but they have made it easier to build things because you don't have to consider such detail often.
Yeah, and try not to be
negative.
Yeah, try not to be gatekeepery or like say like, oh, I'm smarter than everyone else. I know something that people don't know. But that's where I sort of do say that a lot of the current coding, it does feel like we're at a level higher that it's blended with no code to me. It's all blended. It's all a big spectrum, and we're not. Just because you're writing code, I don't think you're sitting on like one end of the spectrum. And just because you're writing no code, I don't think you're not sitting within the spectrum as well.
So we're talking about WebAssembly. Do you think that's going to play a part in this sort of no code, lots of code change? Do you think people will get pushed further along no code solutions because of WebAssembly modules or something like that?
The reason why I think WebAssembly has a unique advantage is because it's web technologies are often different, because once you standardize on a web technology, they have to be backwards compatible. So if you come out with any feature that they add to HTML, that was a bit of a reset with HTML5, but any feature you add, it has to be backwards compatible. So I believe, like, for instance, they can't add any more tags that are self-closing, because that would change the parser. And so that things that you would have to say, well, now the ABC element is self-closing, but previous parsers didn't know that. So they would break. So there's like 12 or so like self-closing tags, like they're finite, like basically forever. You can't have any more self-closing tags. Even stuff like, JavaScript and CSS, they have to be like this append only thing, which sometimes is what makes them a bit ugly. But that's the way they're designed. Like the code you deploy in 2010 has to like work in 2030. And so it's double-edged sword, but that's like what the web technologies give us. And WebAssembly is the same. So if I publish a WebAssembly module now, the .wasm file, it sort of has to run. It will still run in 2030, 2050. And that's why I find it compelling. Whereas like the current tooling, your Python code that you write
may not.
JavaScript code that you write, it's not like may not, it's like pretty high chances that it won't.
That's a really interesting point. I hadn't considered that sort of long-term maintainability. You write some component in JavaScript today, probably in 3 months it won't even freaking compile. Something will break.
Well, that's happening at the moment in the React community. The React are wanting everyone to, I don't know, it seems like a really weird plan. They've sort of decided that server components are the new default. So the entire ecosystem of libraries is supposed to add this use client directive at the top of their published packages. And so you've sort of said all that stuff is broken. It's weird.
JavaScript breaks all the time, whether it's client server or the million dependencies you have, or the 205 dependencies each of them have, and so on and so forth. It's just very, very volatile. Whereas you write it on WebAssembly, it's done, right? There's a finite code, it will do its thing, and as long as the standard doesn't get busted, which it should just keep compiling and keep working. It's like you actually have an executable, right? That's interesting. That is really interesting.
It's a different contract with the world. Unlike other technologies, these sort of, I don't know, these webby technologies, that they have this contract, they have to be backwards compatible.
Yeah, and that
fundamentally different.
Long-term maintainability. If you're working on anything that where you want it to keep operating 10 years in the future. In some ways, that's actually one of the reasons people develop server tech in traditional Java or .NET is exactly for that, because in 10 years' time, it's going to still work. The exact same thing will still freaking work the exact same way. And that's what people value more than the shiny new thing from this month.
Yeah, like the the people that I see who are really big fans of the JavaScript ecosystem, like it's all trade-offs, because there's like you can say there's been a lot of innovation in JavaScript. You kind of have to keep running with it to keep up to date. So you sort of swap your library for managing state or whatever every pretty often, but it has like moved really quickly, like since like the jQuery days. So that's you can see a lot of positives in that, but I think it does have a cost. Quite literally, it costs quite a lot to hire a group of people to manage all of that. So yeah,
interesting. Dude, great chat.
Yeah,
and let's do this again soon.
Cool. Yeah, that was fun.